never a proud mama, but boy, it does get my adrenaline rushing. Funny thing, though, that is from, thank you, and then you can get back to the, you want to get back to the slides, you can take the next one. That's great, thank you. Woo. And that was, he's a lot faster now. Boy, as I watch that now, he's standing up a lot. But it's still pretty exciting, isn't it? That was Wengen, those of you who know anything about ski racing at all. That's my kid. Some of you have met Sam. And he's putting himself out there. And he's putting himself out there to achieve something. And we're being challenged to put ourselves out there too. In many and various different ways. Putting ourselves out to doubt and to be willing to question. Putting ourselves out there to balance our faith and how we live our lives. There's a lot of things going on for us. I'm going to hone in on something very particular. And I realized as I was listening to folks and stories, you have no idea who I am. So I'm going to be talking a little bit from this topic, Roots, and Religion, calling faithful pilgrims to follow the way of Jesus. Thanks for getting my alliteration. That was the dissertation topic. But I want to show you a couple of photos. My name is Pam Morse, and my husband Earl and I are here. We are co-pastors of Sugarloaf Christian Ministry in Maine, and we support the SFC Maine chapter along with Shauna and Mark Freglio, who are right down front, which is nice. And today I've been asked to share some of my 3-year exploration and study resulting in a Doctor of Ministry degree from Portland Seminary in Portland, Oregon, which is from one end of the country to the other. And the focus of that degree was in semiotics and future studies, basically where the church is headed and how language and metaphor and the stories we tell help to get us there. And just to impress you, so here it is in its raw form. I had to show it because the only other person that's ever probably read it is my mom. So it's there. And if any of it is interesting to you, that's open source online. You just Google Pamela Morse dissertation, and it is there, and you can enjoy it. There are sections in it like grooming the trails, learning to play well, powder dreams, last chair. I'm really proud of the work that I did. There are no photos in the book, however. It's not, no coloring pages. So here's a couple of photos. This is Sugarloaf. This is a beautiful fall photo. This is my context. This is home for me. This is the family. That's Ben, my older son, and Sam with that awful first-year mustache at Beaver Creek last year at the World Cup. So this is who we are. And I have about 12 talks coming out of this research and about 30 years of being at Sugarloaf. So I'm just going to take just this little bitty appetizer portion, and hopefully that what I picked for today will help be meaningful to you in your context. You can apply it. And feel free to ask me any questions or in breakout. I can go on for a long time. What I'm going to unpack today is that the idea that most people in our culture desire to do at least two things I'm going to focus on. One is they want to get away. They want to take a break. They want to de-stress. It's called snowboarding for a lot of you, right? But you also want to attach to a place of personal meaning. You want to be connected. People do. They have that yearning even if they can't identify it. And I work with those two yearnings within us to connect with people. And I'm going to unpack that a little bit and show how I think SFC can work with that. So, oh yeah, that's right. There's sunrise. You're talking about large events. That's the Easter sunrise service at Sugarloaf. And it's like that every year. Ain't that great? So my context is in Maine. Your context is going to be a little different. How many people do I have here from New England? In New England? Yeah, they're tipping on that side. That's interesting. Okay. How many people from Maine? Nice. All right, so that's where I'm from. We live in a post-Christian climate, especially in Maine. The Pew Forum reports that of those who say religion is important in their lives, Maine ranks 43 out of 56 states. Don't panic. I know there's 50 states. Where'd the others go? Some of them are so small they have to combine them, so that's where that is. And of those surveyed who confess they pray at least once a day, Maine is dead last. That is my context. The way life should be. How many of you grew up in the church in some way or another? Again, interesting. Okay. So for some of you, this may or may not come as a surprise. We live in a post-Christian context, a post-Christian society. And I don't have time to give you all the markers of that. But Barna did a study a few years ago. They used 16 markers, surveyed thousands and thousands of people, asked them things like, do you pray? Do you read your Bible? Do you donate to a church? Do you attend worship? They weren't things about like what you believe, but what you actually do. And from those markers, they identified the 100 most post-Christian cities in America. Okay? Post-Christian. In other words, these people have no context at all. And of those, 8 out of 10 are in the Northeast. Nice? It's nice to see that in print. And my personal pride and joy, according to Barna's data, the most post-Christian city in America is Portland, Auburn, Maine. Auburn, Maine. All right. Yeah, and they had to put Portland and Auburn together, and Boston is second. So for those of us in New England who feel like we have a tough row to hoe, we have a tough row to hoe. Great job, security. Anyway, we live in a post-Christian climate, everybody, regardless of whether you're in New England or any place else. You felt it. You know it. And if you don't know it, get out, because that's real. But what an opportunity. Welcome to ministry in the real world. Amen. That's it. Let's not pretend. Let's seize this. You were born for a time like this. You were given the passions you have for a time like this. You'd rather be outside snowboarding than inside in a church building? Embrace it. Because that's where people are. And that's where people need to be loved. Have you ever heard somebody say, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious? All right. Is there anybody who hasn't heard somebody say that? Okay, good. Just checking. Phew, right in the right crowd. So how can I encourage people? How can we encourage people to become aware that they have a spiritual life and that that spiritual life can have a purpose and a meaning? How can I encourage them on that spiritual journey? I mean, obviously, I believe in Jesus. Not just so that I can go to heaven when I die, but that I can live and experience abundant life now. Nice then to hear Ryan and Jake. It really actually messes really nicely if you think about it. So my passion is to walk with others in discovering that abundant life. And you know what? That doesn't cost any money. You don't have to have a building to do that. SFC is positioned well. You don't need all the things you think you need. So, there are two things I want to point out. In a ski resort context, there are two driving needs of my population, which is the second homeowner population, but honestly, I think it's for many populations. That was just the focus of my study. One, I said, the longing to escape the daily routine found in their primary home community. You want to get away, you want to get on the hill. The second is the desire to significantly attach to a place of personal meaning. One of the things that I discovered is people are often more connected to that place they go to than even the place they live, which is really interesting. There's all kinds of data about that. At Sugarloaf, 60% of the condos that we have at Sugarloaf are owned by other people in Maine, and they make what's called a pilgrimage to the mountain every weekend. And so that was it's been really, really, really interesting. So ask yourself, do the people you meet on the hill want a break from the stress of life? Are they trying to get away and relax? Not a rhetorical question. Is that why they're there? Is that why you're there? Pretty much. You have a lot in common from the get-go, right? Wherever your context is. And yet, are they yearning for a place to belong, where they are welcome and can feel at home? Do you experience that with people? They want to know if they can be a part of something. They can make a meaningful connection. To an extent, I'm just putting into language what is our heart's yearning for everybody. And yet in our context, as being ski resort people, snowboard resort people, it takes on special meaning. So, how do we address this context and these needs? At Sugarloaf, where I am, the needs to escape routine and attach to a place of personal meaning are addressed through three things, and this is pretty universal, but when I say Sugarloaf, it's because that's my place. Pilgrimage and play, and a rejuvenating time in the outdoors in a place of deep personal meaning. Now, when I speak to other groups, I have to slow down here and explain why play is a godly thing. Thank you for laughing. And I have to explain to them why being outdoors can be a rejuvenating spiritual experience. You guys got that? Do you guys got that? I mean, do you guys got that? Does that make sense to you? Like, being outside is where I reconnect with God. It's where I connect with nature. It's like where it happens. You got that? Because I can go into that. Maybe in a breakout I can convince you of that in case you don't know. But those are big. I don't have to prove to you that Jesus did most of his teaching where? Outside. Drawing upon for his metaphors, what? Outside. Go and look at them. It's all about being outside. Resist the urge to have to be inside. And I don't have to justify the psychosocial benefits of play. I wrote a whole chapter on play, by the way, a whole chapter on play. We can really dig in. But I think you guys get it. So I want to talk about the other one, pilgrimage. Some of these slides are from a booklet that Sugarloaf put together a couple of years ago, the title of which was We Believe, which was an incredible theological statement for a ski resort to make. But I love it. Here we go. SFCers already understand the sacredness of play and rejuvenating time outdoors. You may not be able to articulate it, but you know it deep in your being. This quote here, Sugarloaf has been a part of my life since the age of 2. It's been my lifelong playground, a place where I can escape from the pressures of the world and be one with the elements. She proved my whole thesis. I need to thank her. But that's not her. Because if you look closely, she's got a wicked beard. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know. Anyway. Maybe she's for you. So I want to come alongside people like Amy and help them see how God is calling her through those yearnings. Identify those yearnings with her and say, yeah, and you know that yearning has a name. That name's Jesus. So I want to expand a little bit on pilgrimage, the third way that we address these needs. Hopefully it's something you can use in your interaction with others and in your kind of planning. Okay, so everybody's on a journey. So this is your little journey. It's going to take about 5 seconds. Can everybody stand up? Now, how many of you found that annoying? There you go. Did somebody follow you there?
Hey, Ben took my chair.
Very simple exercise, folks. Here it comes. We get attached to a place. Heck, even I found it. I sat in the same place last night and today. I'm like, oh man, you're a living metaphor of your own point. We get attached to a place. I want to offer you 2 ways of journeying through this life. There may be more. Tell me if you've got some other metaphors. I like this. But it's a helpful way for people who think of themselves as spiritual but not religious. This language can really talk to them and help them on their journey. One of the ways I'm discovering to walk with people and with others is to point out the difference in this metaphor. And here it comes. Are we a tourist or a pilgrim? All right. Can everybody show me their tourist pose? Let's see it. Everybody, let's see the tourist pose. You're sitting at the airport. You're waiting, right? You like that? What's a tourist? Anybody ever been a tourist? Yeah, like what do? You travel around, you go sightseeing, you go skiing. You get shot at. For many people, Contemporary life can feel like they're a tourist, and a tourist in an airport departure lounge. I have to read this because it's so cool, from Richard Sennett. He's a cultural commentator. He says this, and think about this, apply it to life. Such lounges look the same regardless of the airport. They are bland by design. Nobody actually lives in the departure lounge, and yet it is often full of people on their way to somewhere else. They have no interest in developing relationships in this temporary place. The architecture is constructed to inhibit forming even temporary relationships. Isn't that the truth? The chairs are immobile in long rows. Whoever thought that having an armrest that wouldn't move is a good idea? Permitting hushed conversations only with people on either side. Their conversations are muted, and this is one of the unspoken rules, is you have this library voice, which is really crazy. This life here is you're waiting to get to someplace else. It's depersonalized, disembodied, bland, nondescript. And there's a danger in living life like this. It's one thing to be a tourist, but to live life as a tourist. Always on your way to somewhere else. Always trying to escape from where you are. Not making meaningful connections with anyone or any place. We could flesh that out a little bit more. I don't have time. But keep that in mind, because I want to contrast that to the pilgrims. Can you show me with your body what a pilgrim looks like? What's a pilgrim look like? Show your feet. Yeah. I gotta say, we have a pilgrim right here. Marcus. How are your feet? Rough.
I don't normally wear Crocs in the winter.
Yes, I noticed that. There are pilgrims. What is a pilgrimage? Have you ever done it? A pilgrimage, in short, is a trip made to a holy place for a sacred purpose. Okay? To a holy place for a sacred purpose. And have you ever gone on pilgrimage? I bet you have. I think many people make pilgrimages to mountains without knowing it or even having the words for it. They go to a holy place for a sacred purpose. Think about it. The folks that you work with on the Hill are searching. They are headed towards a holy place and a sacred purpose. I wish I had time to read from my lovely dissertation, but I guess I will skip that. Usually when you do a book talk, they want you to read, but I think I'll skip that. Go with Sam Punderson's words. Again, in the booklet, he goes, of all the mountains I have visited, I've never more instantaneously felt a bond of kindred spirits than I get when skiing here. For me at Sugarloaf, the people who make pilgrimage to Sugarloaf on a regular basis, every weekend they load up the car with the dog, with the kids, they come up. They relax, they unwind, they get changed, they get rejuvenated, they go back. And so what we try to do is meet that and work with that movement, that flow. There are some elements of pilgrimage, roots, where we begin, where we start. And then there's the journey, which is often the heart of the pilgrimage. Think about that. The arrival at a destination, and then the return journey to arrive back as a new self. I think pilgrimage is an important part of the spiritual life. And I think we can travel with folks on a journey. And I think we can help them make their arrival back even more meaningful with Jesus. Now, tourists and pilgrims have really different approaches to life. Tourists are seeking to escape life. But pilgrims seek to embrace life. Tourists are trying to forget their commitments, and pilgrims are trying to fulfill their vows. Tourists loathe surprises and interruptions to what they want to do because they're paid a lot of money and they're going on tourism. Pilgrims are delighted by the unexpected and what they see and what they encounter. And so I just think that this image of pilgrim is a great metaphor for us as we meet people where they're at. In your community, where are people making a pilgrimage to? What are they finding? How are they changed when they get back? And how can you come alongside them in their journey and invite them to follow the way of Jesus? It doesn't mean that they have to, in other words, you're coming alongside them. And they're making that pilgrimage, and you're pointing along the way. Oh, see Jesus over there, see love over there, see kindness over there, see patience over there. All those fruits, they're wonderful. You know, when you see those showing up, that means Jesus is showing up over there. Would you like to be a part of that? How can you come alongside them on their journey? to help them engage this life as a pilgrim in pursuit, not as a tourist just wanting to get away. I wish I could unpack that more, but we are going to move along. This is my mantra, and I invite it's free. Can go with anybody. But it is the Celtic way, again, a whole other chapter in that book, way of being in the world and way of doing evangelism. But I love this. Go to the people, live among them, learn from them, love them, start with what they know, and build on what they have. It's actually a fairly different format than what we've normally have done church. We usually make people come to us and learn from us and be like us. Do you see the difference? It totally flips it on its head. Love us. Yeah, love us, feed us. Go to the people, and that's what SFC does really well, which is awesome. Live among them. Again, something that we are doing. But do we learn from the folks that are around us, or are we really just trying to give them our stuff? What would it look like for you to really learn from them? And really to love them. To start with what they know and their passion, and we do that in SFC. Particularly with camps and things like that, to start with what they know. And then to build on what they have, rather than tear them down, rather than saying, you're just a sinner in the hands of an angry God. Build on what they have. Don't show up with your own agenda. Walk with them. With the heart of a pilgrim, look for surprises, pointing out where you see Jesus. And if you do that, you won't be disappointed. I had an outdoor service this summer. My last little bit. Had an outdoor service this summer. We have a summer amphitheater up at the top of Sugarloaf. And this particular one, it was rainy, it was nasty. We took the chairlift up, but we knew we had to get up there. We got up there because there was one other couple up there. We're like, oh man. We learned out later they shut the lift down, and that's why it was just Earl and I and this one other couple in the rain under the eaves of a tree. But it was a divine appointment. It was AA Roundup weekend at Sugarloaf, Alcoholic Anonymous Roundup. And so there was hundreds, 700 AA folks there. And this couple had gone all the way up, wanted to go to this outdoor service. They were huddled up there, had gotten up there early. And it was just the four of us. And for me, it was a divine appointment to walk with them for a little while, to hear their story, to encourage them. They had gotten pulled over by the police on the way over from Bangor, and because, they had been involved in drugs at certain points, and they had to have their whole car taken apart, even though they were going to an AA meeting, and there was all this stuff, and to process that with them, that's part of their journey, not to get all mad. We just started with where they were at. It was pretty amazing. Just to be available. And I have to finish with my last quote because I love this quote. Earth is God's sacred place, Jake, isn't it? There are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. Let us reclaim this earth as the Lord's and the goodness thereof. And I think SFC is well on the way to the goodness of that. And we can work with that with people. Thanks so much. Thanks for your patience.